One, Joe Biden says farewell. He warns that we're on the precipice. We're at the age of an oligarchy, of a techno-industrial complex. He warns of all of the ways through which the last 4 years he's moved the United States of America. Two, Patrick Bet-David, the host of the PBD Podcast, here to talk about TikTok. The new senator from Florida. Will Vivek Ramaswamy be the senator from Ohio? Three, what's the worst fan base in all of sports? It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, terrestrial radio stations across this great United States of America, but always on demand by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. Joining us every Monday through Thursday will be you, the Willisha, by simply heading over to YouTube, hitting subscribe, and jumping into the comment section. Speaking of the comment section, of course, at this point, I hope you know, next Tuesday, the day after the inauguration of Donald Trump, we will be launching the Will Cain Show on the Fox News channel at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It is more of the Will Cain Show. We will still continue to broadcast this digital and podcast stream every day at noon. And then we're going to take a siesta, regroup, and come back and share with you the style, the substance, and the personality of the Will Cain Show right here on the Fox News channel. As such, one of the elements of this show that we've wanted to develop, have not yet fully developed, but continue to look for ways to develop, is how to integrate you into the show, you, the Willisha. You're in the comment section on YouTube. You're in the comment section on Facebook. You're in the comment section on X. And we bring you into the show from time to time. I think soon we'll be bringing the chat live on air so we can watch you interact with one another right here on the show. But we want to continue to look for ways for you to get involved. If we're being honest, you know, if I go all the way back to my days at ESPN, one of the things that I love to do was bring in callers. Well, if you're on a television show, one of the ways to do that is probably to allow people to FaceTime. But, you know, it's not a down and dirty show anymore with very few bosses overlooking my shoulder. So for fear of one of you guys yelling Baba Booey or something, it might be hard for me to put you on air live. But that doesn't mean I don't want to put you on air. So I'm looking for ways, whether or not it's continue to integrate your comments into the show or a video voicemail, you know, instead of just reading what you have to say, hearing what you have to say and interacting, debating, taking in your opinions, your point of view. That's an idea that we've been thinking about here. But of course, if I'm looking for feedback, if I'm looking to bring you into the show, one of the smartest things to do would be to say, hey, why don't you go ahead now and give me your ideas? So I hope you will. Drop into the comments section here on YouTube or on Facebook or on X or Instagram. And let me know, what do you think are some good ways to begin to have this not be a sermon, where I don't sit at a pulpit, where I'm not just a newsman at a desk, but I have a conversation with you, the Willisha, with America. Take a look at this picture. I loved it. Boys in New York. I sent this in. I hope you guys have it 2 days, but you can put up the picture of the New York City subway system today. What you see is Daniel Penny commuting back on the subway in New York. He's reading a book. He's not incognito, although he has chosen, I think, the controversial move of wearing his scarf over his head, Little Bo Peep style.
Brooklyn way.
He does go to school
in
in Brooklyn.
That's the Brooklyn way.
Yeah, that's the Brooklyn.
He's coming from Brooklyn to Manhattan for classes.
He's got some Brooklyn style there. He's got a pea coat jacket on with the collar up. And he's got some, I bet you do 2 days. I bet you do. He's got some work / dress boots on with a just perfect balance of shine, some skinny leg pants. He's a stud. He's an absolute stud. He'd be a stud in a dress. And what I love about this picture is that, I don't know, I think it's symbolic of the moment we sit at right here in America. I think it's a return. I think it's a return of masculinity. It's a return of hope. It's a return of expectation. It's a return to, hopefully, sanity. I'd love to see Daniel Penny re-engage with the life that he had before, a private life, a man going to work. We've got Patrick Bet-David coming up on the show today. We're going to, last time I saw PBD was on his show down in Florida. We'll probably talk about that. We'll probably talk about some of the things that have cropped up in the news, some opinions he's held. I want to ask him about his position on the debate that erupted just before Christmas involving Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and H1B visas. We're also going to hit some of the stuff in the news today, including the newly named senator from the state of Florida. But before we get into everything, let's do this. 2 days. Can we bring up, as we have for the last couple of days, with live looks into the Senate confirmation hearings of Pete Hegseth and Sean Duffy and Senator Marco Rubio. Nominee for Attorney General Pam Bondi is on day 2 of her Senate confirmation hearings. Let's bring that up so the audience can keep up to date on what's happening there. Whether or not she's speaking, we can dip in live. But I would love to see what's happening there right now. They have adjourned.
Yeah, so this is
and
Burgum's.
A moment of celebration.
Yep.
Moment of celebration for Young Establishment James. There's Doug Burgum, Department of Interior. He's currently sitting before his confirmation hearing. Big day for you, James. You excited about Burgum there? He's in your Twitter profile, isn't he?
Yeah,
Is he your
not anymore.
icon?
Not anymore. That era is over. But Doug used to run a great Twitter account, and he's got a really interesting role at Interior because it's not just they kind of gave him a 3-pronged role where he's dealing with Interior, he's dealing with lands, but he's also heavily involved on the Energy Council. He's going to be a fun one to watch in that administration.
We know you love Governor Doug Burgum.
He's the man.
And he's going back and forth with senators as we speak. But let's move to the farewell of Joe Biden. Story number 1. President Joe Biden spoke to the nation yesterday. It was his farewell address. In it, despite hopes for unity and a promise of a better tomorrow, he continued to pound the table of what I think is a dark warning of the future. Joe Biden and Democrats have truly internalized the Saul Alinsky tool, whether or not it's done subconsciously or Machiavellian. The Saul Alinsky tool of projection. Accuse your enemy of the sins which you commit. Joe Biden warned. He warned that we are at threat. Our democracy, not this time of a dictator in Donald Trump, but he's changed that. While it's still our democracy that's at stake, now it's a threat of an oligarchy. Watch.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
Projection. He went on, by the way, to warn that he's concerned about a tech-industrial complex. He said, in his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for disastrous rise of misplaced power, end quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country. Projection. Rich, to hear someone who integrated the United States government and the tech powers that be, one could argue an oligarchy, at Facebook, Google, Meta, and every other tech platform into a censorship industrial complex, to stand there today and warn us that we're on the edge of a tech industrial complex. One of the reasons that this falls deaf is not just hypocrisy, but in order for something to truly be an industrial complex, it has to have the backing, the subsidization, the propping up of the government. That is what happened under Joe Biden. That is not what promises to happen under Donald Trump. He went on to warn about dark money, the role that presumably these oligarchs would have in supporting Donald Trump. Dana Perino pointed out very well yesterday on Fox News. What about George Soros? Just a few days ago, Joe Biden awarded George Soros, perhaps the biggest source of dark money in the world, the Presidential Medal Freedom, the Presidential Freedom Medal. Projection, every step of the way. Joe Biden warned of the things which he's done here with the United States government over the past 4 years. But despite his dark warnings, despite his attempt at division, the country's never been more unified. Donald Trump is at all-time highs when it comes to polling. His transition, all-time highs. His favorability, all-time high. The country's excited. They're ready for Donald Trump. And it's because, in part, in the 3 months since his election and even before his inauguration, Donald Trump's done more. He's accomplished more than Joe Biden has done in 4 years. Here's a quick look. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, take a look inside the Dallas, Texas headquarters of the Will Cain Show. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, I'll share with you what's been accomplished without even yet the inauguration of Donald Trump. We're on the verge of an Israel-Hamas deal right now to release hostages. There will be an agreement to open the Rafah border with Egypt. Hamas soldiers, select few, will receive medical treatment. In exchange, hostages will be released. I believe almost all American hostages will be released. Of course, because this was done before inauguration, there's a bit of a fight. Who gets credit, Biden or Trump? Watch.
I'm confident. Thank you.
Folks, credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
It's not a joke. If this were going to be to the credit of Joe Biden, it would have been done in the past 4 years. Instead, it's done mere days before the inauguration of Donald Trump. Why? Soft power, leadership. This is what happens when the world looks across the oceans and sees true leadership in America. Need more examples? How about before even becoming president, Donald Trump has Canada at the negotiating table. He's gotten Greenland's attention. And there are some signals that their willingness to engage in becoming a territory, a state of the United States. He's got Mexico's attention. He's got the attention of the Panama Canal. In this time as well, before he becomes president, he's creating a new AI and crypto czar, brand new job, David Sachs, Silicon Valley entrepreneur, who I think soon will be joining many of the people in this administration who will share their vision on the Will Cain Show. DOGE, a brand new government entity, is set up. The Department of Government Efficiency, up and running, bringing attention to government waste. The FDA, out of the blue, much like Greenland, much like Canada, much like Mexico, seeing the example of soft power and leadership and already moving to ban red dye number 3 over concerns of cancer. Before we're even celebrating the inauguration of Donald Trump, he's got a list of things that have been accomplished sheerly through the concept of soft power, of expectations of leadership. Here's where we find the true definition of leadership. Leadership is not, as President Obama once said, a pen and a paper. Yeah, there will be executive orders signed. Yeah, there will be legislation passed. But true leadership is people following. And people don't just follow because you have an office. People don't just follow because you have a pen. People don't just follow because you have the military as a tool. People follow because you possess the qualities of leadership: pragmatic, transactional, common sense leadership. And it takes no swearing in to know that all those traits are possessed by Donald Trump. Coming up, Patrick Bet-David's going to join us here. We're going to talk about this plus much more, including something we may have a debate on, the value of unfettered or perhaps controlled H1B visas. I want to share with you this amazing exchange with a press member and Arthur Schwartz, who's an attorney. He's worked with the transition team. He's worked with Pete Hegseth. You got to see this exchange about whether or not Donald Trump Jr. rounded up homeless and drug addicts in Greenland and put them in MAGA hats to feign fake support for Donald Trump. That plus much more coming up soon here on The Will Cain Show. Don Lemon just refuses to believe that Donald Trump should get credit for the Israel-Hamas ceasefire and hostage release deal on the doorstep of the presidency of Donald Trump. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at YouTube, Apple or on Spotify. While you're perusing around podcasts on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify, you should also check out, if you're not already, the PBD Podcast. Its founder and the founder of Valuetainment, New York Yankees minority owner, always in his bio, Patrick Bet-David here on the Will Cain Show. What's up, PBD?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? You good?
I'm good. I heard some news. I heard some news with you, which is, congratulations to you. It's exciting news for you.
Thank you. It's really exciting. I got a nice text from you the other day. We saw each other, I'd say, what was it? Maybe 2 months ago down in Florida. I didn't know then, honestly, that this was in the cards, but I'm really excited, man. And I hope that it's going to be a process, and I hope that I can pull off something that you've pulled off really successfully, that we've pulled off to some extent here. And that is, all the elements that make a good podcast or a good digital show, which is there's a casualness to it, right? It's not scripted. It's capable of long form and pushback and debate, which you've done really well when you and I have talked about. My hope is that over time, because it's going to be a process, we can grasp a lot of the truth. I honestly think this, Patrick, the truth-seeking nature that has been, in an authentic way, trailblazed by digital.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a different format, different audience, different skill set, different approach. The same things that will work on cable may not work on, a podcast, and the same skill set that works on podcast may not transfer to, a cable network. It's a very different game. It's like playing two philosophies of a sports game, sports coach, and you got to adjust to it.
And it'll be a challenge, because I think you're right. In that way, it'll be a challenge. But do you know what I think is the one common thread? And this is where I have to trust myself, is I think the biggest currency available in the digital and podcast space is authenticity. You don't always have to be right. You just have to let the audience know you're trying really hard to be real and right. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think that same currency exists in linear and cable as well, although it's a currency that I don't think has been cashed in quite often enough, meaning we have strove for perfection, polish over authenticity. And that's what I'm really confident that I will be able, because it's who I am, man. That is my currency.
No, it's true. Look, Dana said something very interesting. I saw a clip of his, Dana White. He said, when it comes down to fighters, if you walk out in the arena and everybody is cheering you, yeah, well, what's up, Conor? Blah, blah, blah. Says, great, I'm happy. You're winning. Number two, if you walk out and people are pissed, cursing you out, screaming, you're getting such emotions from them, I'm also happy. He says, when we're not winning is when you walk out and nobody cares. So that's the part where what Vince McMahon was able to do with the 2.0 version of himself when he realized, hey, people actually come to see me get hit. People actually come to see me get my ass handed to me. And he learned. That's how he took WWE to the next level. And so there is an art to this, showmanship, the showman side. We're the greatest showman in the world. If you can get the audience and they're seeing you, whether it's good, bad, ugly, but they keep wanting to come back and say, hear what you have to say or disagree with you, you're winning.
Yeah, and I don't know yet. I'm being honest with you and the audience. I don't know yet about me and showmanship. You told me once, and I always remember it, you loved the version of me on First Take. The truth is, and I was a villain. Let's be real. I was a villain. The audience did not. I saw the focus groups, but I wasn't trying to be a villain. I was just being me. I was the same authentic person I am here and the same authentic person I'm on Fox, just in a different fight, just in a different environment. I saw, by the way, the Vince documentary on Netflix, where they talked a lot about this, how he became Mr. McMahon. Right. You know who said something similar to me, Patrick, is the former governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer. Early on in my TV career, I was on CNN, and I don't remember why we were talking about this, but I remember being in his office. He had a show on CNN called In the Arena. I was on it every night, and he goes, you know what's bad, Will? 100% approval rating. That's bad. He's like, 100% approval rating is the same thing as 100% disapproval rating. You got to be right there.
I fully agree.
You agree?
100% I agree. Yeah, 100% I agree. Like, we like when there is opposition. We like when there is debate. We like when there is a little bit of friction. When it's too much of everybody agreeing with each other, That's not made for TV. And it's okay with being a little bit edgy. It's okay with some people not actually, agreeing with you or liking you. As long as they come back watching, I'm okay with it. I was at an Inter-Miami game. Guy comes up to me. He's like, oh, wait a minute. I know who you are. I never miss your podcast. I said, really? Yeah, never. You're the one podcast I never miss. I said, what do you like about it? He says, no, it's not that I like. I don't like what you talk about. I said, but you don't miss it? I never miss it. I said, that's great. Well, we appreciate your loyalty. Make sense? It doesn't matter what side you're on. Sometimes people want to come to say, this is Will is wrong. Will doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong at it again. He's doing it again. As long as you're coming back, we're doing something right.
But so for me, and I'm going to transition this into current events now, PBD, but for me, as long as it's pursued authentically, you are being yourself and letting the chips fall where they may, that you're not trying. And I've seen that on both sides. I have seen people try to be controversial, and I have seen people try to be someone that everyone likes. Right. I saw that at ESPN a lot. There's a lot of very famous hosts I knew at ESPN who lived in fear of someone on Twitter saying, I really hate you or I hate what you have to say. And now they're inauthentic and seeking likability. You can't be inauthentic and seeking either controversy or likability. Now, here's someone, and I'm going to say this out loud, that I think is inauthentic in his pursuit of both. Here's his talent. He sometimes wants to be likable. He sometimes wants to be controversial, always inauthentic. Here is, I think, an example of the way to do it the wrong way. Here is Don Lemon responding to this current event over who deserves credit between the ceasefire, between Joe Biden and Donald Trump on the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Watch.
Donald Trump happened to be a transactional president, happened to be a transactional man. He wanted to come to the White House with a win. And that was always his approach.
Let me ask you this then. So why did they not wait until he took office, which is just going to be in about a week?
Because he didn't want to deal with these issues as he get into office. He wanted this issue to be off the table.
Roll up. Okay. I don't agree with that. I think Donald Trump would like to have started off. We know Donald Trump, the day of his inauguration or on the day to announce a ceasefire. The fact that it happened on Biden's watch, I think that leads many people to question whether it was. And look, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but that's going to lead many people to question.
Do you know when the ceasefire will enter in? Do you know when the ceasefire will start?
It's going to start. The temporary ceasefire is going to start. It should start on Sunday.
No, he doesn't know when it will start. Setting aside Don Lemon, unless you want to address him, Patrick, what do you think of this issue? Who deserves credit between this ceasefire?
Look, I mean, I saw that part when he's explaining, and the lady that was actually the audio that we just heard, so just the audience knows, she's a Democrat. She's not a Trump fan. So that was not a person that was a Trump supporter, and they're debating back and forth. He's upset because she's a Democrat giving the credit to Trump, and he's not happy about it. Similar thing happened here. Look, there's different styles. Not everybody's the same. Ronald Reagan, when he took office, Iran had the political prisoners that had been there for 400 days, 444 days. I don't remember the exact number, but it's a big number. And then boom, right before it happens, the hostages are released. So some can say, Reagan was very noble about it and says, look, obviously this happened and because of Jimmy Carter and all this other stuff, but they were afraid of what Reagan was going to be doing. That's just the reality of it. So, somebody's threat is different than another person's threat. So in this case, when Joe Biden's approaching the mic and the lady at the end says, so who gets credit for this, you or Trump? And he comes back and says, you're joking, right? Yes, I am. And then walks up and he took credit for it. The reality of it is you can take credit, but is the ceasefire done? Hamas is not holding back. There's stories right now that Hamas is not accepting it, and they're kind of playing games a little bit right now with it. So versus when Trump gets up and says, I dare you. Go ahead and do it. See what happened. A quick memory for you guys, Hamas. Do you guys remember a guy named Qasem Soleimani? What happened to Qasem Soleimani? He's no longer with us. Do you know who he was? He was the number 2 guy that they thought in the future he was going to be the president of Iran. This guy was a shot caller. This guy was a guy that ran a lot of the different militaries that Iran had, the Houthis, all the different proxies that they had. And he was a G for the Iranian army with a lot of upside potential. What did Trump do to him? Took him out. How did Iran react? By attacking a base that nobody was at the base and then claiming that they retaliated and then they didn't do anything to it. No, there's a difference with threats. A mom can threaten taking away an iPad, and a father can threaten taking away an iPad. Either one of the parents, depending on their reputation of keeping the threats, the kids will react to them accordingly. If mom makes a threat and still lets them play the iPad, kids are going to be like, Mom, whatever. But if a dad says, I'm taking away the iPad, and he takes it away for a month, kids are going to be like, no, 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 no. So there's a difference. Trump's telling Hamas, go ahead and do this. Watch how long I'll take the iPad away from you.
There's memes on people, giving their dogs commands. Dogs too. Kids, dogs, the world. Oh, came from you? I don't believe it. Came from you? I'm in line. Yes, sir. Whatever you have to say, I've got to do it. You know who Arthur Schwartz is? Arthur Schwartz is an attorney. PBD, he's helped with the transition team. I know he's helped with Pete Hegseth. He posted something on Twitter I found pretty fascinating. So it's a reporter who says, hey, I'm going to read it. I'll read it to the audience, and I'll read it to you. Her name is Amanda Bryant. She texted Arthur Schwartz. She said, hey, Arthur, I'm a reporter for The Guardian. I'm working on a story from Nook, that's in Greenland. Have spoken to the CEO of a hotel, Hans Edge, that's the name of the hotel, who told me that Donald Trump Jr. invited the homeless people and drug dealers he had met on the streets of Nook, who had no idea who he was, for a free lunch to make it look like they were supporters of his father. Does Donald Trump Jr. have any comment on that? If so, please get back to me ASAP. And then, okay, we got to do the back and forth real quick, Patrick. He says, that's pretty wild. This is Schwartz's response. Did the hotel CEO provide you any evidence that Don did this? Or are you just planning to run this unsubstantiated claim with no evidence? And then she said, thank you for responding. Does he dispute the claim? And then now Schwartz finally goes back. You tell me, do you think Donald Trump Jr. wandered around Greenland inviting people and homeless people and drug addicts to a lunch? Or do you realize this suggestion sounds so ridiculous that you should probably ask for some evidence? There were cameras following him all day from the second that he got there. Did they miss him recruiting homeless people and drug addicts? Or are you effing retarded? This is funny, but also like it's the new way you handle the media. I mean, Arthur Schwartz is a fighter. He is a fighter, there's no doubt. Donald Trump's been doing this. We don't accept your false premises.
This is not going to work anymore, though. It just doesn't work anymore. Look, when kids get to an age, and this may be a wrong analogy, but I'm just going to use it anyways. When kids get to an age, when a mom or a dad uses a certain threat, let's just say mom does, and the kid finally says, Mom, that worked at 12. That worked at 14. That doesn't work at 18, okay? And normally, that is a bit of friction point with parents and kids, because they can no longer use those fears to control their kids, okay? And that's when a parent is losing a little bit of control of the kid. And the kid is kind of like, wait a minute, no, I'm not going to fall for that. No, I'm not going to fall for that. And there's friction points. It's going to happen to every parent, by the way. This is not an example of a good parent, bad parent. Every parent eventually has to realize you no longer have the kind of controls you had over your kids when they were 13, 14, 15 years old, and you have to get over it. It's a different phase right now that they're living in. Okay, great. So today, the U.S. government, many of them, and mainstream media, many of them, treated people that they went after as if they're kids with threats that used to work, and people would shiver, and they would be nervous. This is the worst time to use these threats. Hands down, the worst time to use these threats. These are the times when you use these threats and these methods that you go from working at CNN to all of a sudden being a podcaster, going around doing recordings of other black men and women in the streets of New York who tell you they're Trump supporters and you don't know what to say. And I think we know who we're talking about here. When you use threats like this and manipulation, of course, when you use manipulation threats like this, you get exposed. It does not work today. It's humiliating. You have to change your approach in ways like never before and actually go back to journalistic integrity, or else you will be exposed. That's it. So this guy can do whatever he's doing here, and it's not just about Arthur Schwartz. Everybody is going to expose somebody like that.
Right. So I love your analogy. I love the children analogy. I also like how you often bring things back to your family and the lessons you learn, because there's no bigger lessons to learn than being a dad. But, to complete the analogy, this came up yesterday. So Adam Schiff is at the confirmation hearing of Pam Bondi, right? And he is grilling her. And he's saying stuff like, will you investigate Liz Cheney? Will you investigate, who was the other person he was bringing up? Jack Smith. And he was using it, Patrick, as a gotcha. Like, if she says, I'm going to investigate, she's now illustrated that she's going to politicize the DOJ. I found that so fascinating because of this. And this ties into this media story. He used the word investigation as though it is a threat because, and this plays the game here, he laid his cards on the table where we all got to see them. Democrats have treated investigation as a threat. So I'm investigating Donald Trump Jr. for inviting homeless people and drug dealers in. And in the past, to your point, everybody's like, oh, God, what is this? I'm terrified. There's an investigation, right? Democrats use the tool of the investigation. Look back at the Trump headlines for the last 4 years, including Russiagate. It was all investigation. It wasn't charges because in the past, the public internalizes, you're being investigated, you're guilty. Not knowing the investigators are guilty. They're the dirty ones. So my point is, I actually want Pam Bondi to say, if appropriate, I will investigate them. Then we'll see if they deserve charges. And by the way, Democrats went well beyond investigation. They went to false charges as well for Trump. But my point I'm getting at is all this ties together because that reporter, Adam Schiff, anyone else, they have used, hey, I'm looking into something, and I may report that I'm looking into something as a threat that used to scare everybody. And now we know, hey, you look into a lot of nonsense.
By the way, again, so certain words used to have a lot of weight, okay? So, for example, a guy who tells every girl he's with he loves them, and he builds a reputation. Guess what eventually happens? That word love means nothing to the guy. It's just a weapon. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you, right? Then you have certain people, coach. Some coaches are very, very careful with using the word I'm proud of you, right? And a player-coach conflict will be, you know what, you never tell me you're proud of me and da-da-da-da-da. Well, some coaches who have been coaching for a long time, they'll tell you, yes, because when I do say it, your knees will buckle and you'll cry because I'll mean it. When a parent always tell their kids, I'm proud of you, that word is out the window. Save it for the right moment. Stop every day telling your kids you're proud of them. Raise the standards of what it means to be proud of you, right? Instead of every day telling your kids you're proud of them. I had a father that maybe said, I'm proud of you every 4 years. And it was a different kind of a mindset, right? Where am I going with this? Here's where I'm going with this. So let's look at words that used to have weight that no longer do. You're racist. No longer carries the same weight. Hitler no longer carries the same weight. Bigot no longer carries the same weight. You know, investigation no longer carries the same weight. You can have so many of these words, they just no longer, they have desensitized the American people with these words. They just no longer carry the same weight. So Pam Bondi, by the way, crushed it on many different ways. I think everybody found out yesterday how old she was. Prior to yesterday, nobody knew how old she was. I have guys here, you know, Adam and Vinny. I got single guys around me.
I didn't see it.
Oh, are you kidding me? Everybody.
How old is she?
She's 59 years old. Are you kidding me? Good for you. Dude, I mean, I think she is. That's what the guys were telling me that, you know.
I'm blown away by that.
Well, that's 59 years old, November 17, 1965. So kudos to her for her genetics. Anybody that dates, if she has daughters or grandkids, you have good genetics, you ought to be excited about it long term. But you know what I loved about what she did? She says, oh, really? I'm sorry. Why are you interrupting me? Let me answer the question. Schiff lost control. And she says, how about let's investigate why your crime in your state is up 87%. What are you doing about it? That's when he was kind of rattled. And she went back at him, and he didn't know how to take it. Your brother Pete crushed it. I told you this last night or 2 days ago. It was so great watching the way he handled himself. But again, 2023, I called it the year of investigations. Every year I give the year a name. 2024, I called it the year of chaos. It was a very chaotic year, 2024. 2025, I'm calling the year of surprises. Some surprises will be good. Some surprises will be bad. This is going to be the year of surprises. We're going to see some stuff that we thought it was going to happen. It doesn't happen. And we're going to see some stuff that we said it'll never happen, and it's going to happen. Because they still have a lot of stuff up their sleeves that you don't know what's going to be coming up. But yeah, many of those words we are officially desensitized, so they don't carry the same weight as they did before.
Totally agree. Hey, speaking of, you know, Bondi was AG of Florida. The current AG of Florida, Ashley Moody, just named by your governor, Ron DeSantis, as a new senator. Watch this.
So this is something that I thought about long and hard. We did a lot of research. We got a number of great candidates throughout the state of Florida, and many of them, I think, could have done a good job. But the final criteria I used was, because you can say all those things and say you stand for it, I wanted somebody with a demonstrated record of delivering results on those important issues. Talk is cheap. We need people that have demonstrated fidelity to these principles with their actions. So that is why today I'm proud to announce that I am selecting our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, to serve as our next U.S. Senator.
What do you think, Patrick?
Okay, so this is going to get me in trouble every single time when he gets to this conversation here. So 2 days ago, you golfed with Trump, Governor Ron DeSantis, hands down the best governor in our 50 states. No one's done a better job the last 4 years than him. We moved to Florida because he absolutely crushed it. There's so many, like right now, California should hire Governor DeSantis as a consultant to clean up all the mess that's going on there. And they ought to give the state of Florida $100 million for help clean it up for you as a consultant fee, even though he'll do it for free. He'll come and clear up and do what Newsom's having a hard time with and get everybody in their place. That's how good of a governor this guy is. He's a phenomenal executor. He gets things done. However, if I read into it, and I think power plays, 2 days ago or a day ago, you golfed with the president. Everybody sees the clip. You golf with the president because the president probably invited you to go golf with you. If we can speculate, what do you think the conversation was about? Conversation is probably about who's going to replace Marco Rubio. And then 2 days later, you give the job to somebody that you want, not somebody that Trump maybe would have wanted. Laura, some other stories that's out there, right? Well, I don't want the job. I don't want this. I don't want that. Okay, we can all read into it. I totally get it. Either if the president comes out and supports and says, we're happy with Ashley, all this others, great, no problem. If he comes out and they're on the same page, let's not read into it. But if he's doing this to say, I am my own man and I'm going to make this decision myself, et cetera, you're just helping J.D. Vance more for 2028. It's just that simple to me. He's going to remember these moments when you want him to go out there and campaign for you the way he did to help you become a governor, and you won only by 35,000 votes, whatever the number is, because of those 3 tweets that he gave you that you wrote about in your book. I don't know strategically. I'm not behind closed doors, but I have a bunch of questions that it's probably not in my top 50 list of things to be thinking about, but you're asking me this question directly. That's my breakdown on this issue.
What is your gut instinct on which way that is? 2 days ago, you golfed with Trump. Is this DeSantis saying, I'm going to be my own man and make my own pick, or was this something approved by Trump?
Like I said, if Trump comes out and he puts something on Truth Social that he's 100% supportive of this, story's gone, we're moving on, period. I just, let me say it from this perspective that I'm such a believer of Governor Ron DeSantis that in getting shit done, dude, the guy's a 10. We're doing annual reviews right now. We have all these scoring system that we go through. Effort, teamwork, results, innovation, things that you do. And then we give the additional bonuses on specialized skills that you improve this year and on leadership development and, company culture, like are you Valuetainment? I give them very high scores in execution. Okay. When it comes down to being strategic alliances long-term, I don't know. I don't know that part. I don't know how he
I'm with you.
processes that part. I don't get it. Sometimes I'm very confused with that part.
And the politicking part of it, meaning the press and flesh part of politics. And people think it means I don't like DeSantis. I love DeSantis. As you said, I think I agree with you. He's the best governor in the country. I just don't know what that means about becoming president. By the way, what do you think about Vivek? The reports are today that that Trump wants Vivek to be the next senator from Ohio, replacing J.D. Vance.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they ran a poll in Ohio of who they want to see run for governor. I think Vivek got like 52% or 42% on who to be a governor of Ohio. And that was like an accidental poll that was random. People asked him if he would run or not. We had him on the podcast and I asked him straight up if he would consider it. I don't know. I think Vivek is in the level of being formidable. He gets a very high score. The way he processes issues and how well read he is, it's unbelievable. His ability to speak as a public speaker, you can go back and watch him at 18 years old. This man is gifted. He's talented. It's like watching Michael play and you see him jump in high school, or watching some of these baseball players. There's a clip of Mike Piazza at 16 years old, 15 years old. He's swinging a bat and Ted Williams is watching him. It's like, hey, who is this kid, right? The way he's hitting the ball, like this kid's going places. And obviously Mike Piazza ends up being one of the better catchers we've ever had, 40 home runs. The guy's a phenomenal player. Vivek scores very high on all the talent and all the abilities. And I think he's just getting warmed up. I literally think Vivek is just getting warmed up. He's going to be one of the best draft picks in the Republican Party for the next 2-3 decades. He's not going to go away. Everybody has to realize the only reason J.D. Vance got ahead of Vivek for presidency for 2028 is because Trump picked him as a VP, and J.D. showed up when he debated Waltz, and it was such a clinic. I'm just so impressed by the way J.D. handles himself with the media. He's had a couple mishaps, couple situations, but what he said with J6, all that stuff, he's going to fumble. He's going to have some of those things he's going to stumble and go through. But Trump's also at a different level right now where he's not the you're fired like immediately type of moment. He is a little bit more gentle in the way that he's doing stuff. As of right now, he's in flow state. But I think Vivek, as a senator, I see him bigger than that, to be honest with you. And I think Senator to be a guy. He's a one.
Different.
Like he needs to go in a position like that, my opinion.
That's a different skill set. You and I think a lot alike, at least through the way, the prism through which we process thought. I mean, you have invoked analogies of family, raising kids, sports several times. Of course, that's sort of how I analogize the world as well. You and I, speaking of Vivek, we're on different sides of the debate that Vivek sort of ignited before Christmas, which was about, in part at least, about H1B visas, but not totally, because Vivek said, look, I'm for H1B visa reform. But he was talking more about why companies need to bring highly skilled engineers from other countries, India, various East Asian countries, to fill coding positions. And he said, look, we don't have them. We don't have them coming up in America. And he indicted our culture. He indicted prom king, prom queen, quarterback culture, where we should be celebrating the math Olympiad guy.
Did that offend
that
you?
debate, which was...
But did that offend you?
Well... The second part, yes. Well, offended, I don't care about offended. Offended is an emotion.
Did it upset you?
I think he was wrong, and I think he went entirely too far. And he and I had a conversation about this.
Can you unpack that, please?
Yeah, because I know you were more on his side of this. And so here's what I think, Patrick. He went entirely too far in indicting American culture and elevating another culture as though it were superior without limiting it to this one particular application. And I talked to him about this. He and I talked about this. I am a fierce defender of American culture, and I think it is a very unique concoction of elements that have come together, not simply hard work and intelligence. That is not the distillation of American culture. It is grounded in many other things. And if I just pick one that I think is unique to America over other high-achieving cultures, it is risk-tolerant. It is risk-embracing. And there's a reason for that throughout its history. And so, maybe the quarterback doesn't learn how to code, but the quarterback learns how to hire, fire, and start businesses and has big ideas. And so I think he went way too far. I know that you're an immigrant. I know that you have hired H1B visa employees. And I know you love American culture. And I can't profess that you and I know each other like best buddies, but I've seen what you built. I actually see what you're doing with your children and sports and all of that. So I said this to Vivek. Vivek, I think you love America. That's not the issue. But I think what you had to say then was entirely too sweeping about American culture.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. Do you consider Vivek American?
Yeah, of course.
So Vivek to you is American?
Yeah.
So if he's American...
He's American.
What part of him saying what he said about the American culture offended those who were not happy about it? Is it the fact that his parents are Indian? Is it the fact that he's not white? Nothing. But what part of it? Because, look, I've seen Trump get into an argument with somebody and they'll say stuff about, bashing everybody else. And then he'll say, look, it's not like we don't have our history. Don't forget the history of America. We've done some things that we should have never done. Don't forget about the weapons of mass destruction that
Hold
never
on.
existed.
This
Don't
doesn't
forget
have
about all
anything
that.
to do with his immutable characteristics. It has
So, but
nothing
what
to
I'm-
do with his race, ethnicity, heritage,
So
or
then
his
what part of
parents.
can you
It does
give
have
what
to do
part?
with culture.
Which part? Which part of the culture?
What part of the culture? What are you asking me?
So when you say
I said I think Vivek was entirely too sweeping in his indictment of American culture.
which part?
He
though?
didn't
Like
just say, because he didn't just say, hey, we're not producing coders. He said we have created a culture that celebrates one thing and doesn't celebrate another. And that's why we're falling behind entirely
Is he
too
wrong,
broadly.
though? Is he wrong? Is he wrong in that area?
Well,
I mean,
this
you
is
have
not to say
ask-
that American culture is
No,
perfect.
think about it
I
from
don't
this standpoint.
suggest
Hear
that it's
me out.
perfect.
Hear me out from this standpoint. Hear me out from this standpoint. And by the way, just so you know what, but H1B visas, we've hired a handful of H1B visas in our career, and guess what? It's legal. Just the same way as when President Trump was in a debate with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton says, so all these tax write-offs and da-da-da-da-da, and how about the fact that he pays so little taxes? And Trump says, wait a minute, I'm going to take advantage of all the tax cuts
Of course
that
it's
you guys
legal.
came up with.
Yeah, of course.
He says, all the donors do the same, so what are you doing? And you've been here for 36 years, how come you haven't done anything about it? But watch where I'm going to go with this. I think the part with the H-1B visa that I have a problem with is these consulting firms that keep half of the salary from the people that get the jobs too, and then the manipulation and the lottery system that we don't end up getting the best and all this other stuff. That's that part. But let's stay here with culture. You used to be at ESPN, okay?
Right.
And ESPN is a Disney-held company. And you went from ESPN to Fox. And I was very disappointed when you left ESPN to Fox. By the way, I watched First Take more often when you were here than now I do. I never missed First Take on any given day when you were on there with him. Never. By the way, I'm having a meeting with Stephen A. in 4 hours. We're having a meeting right now. He's coming down here to visit to the office. We're going to break bread and have a stogie together. And I'm a Stephen A. We have a relationship together. But what part of the culture on ESPN was broken? A lot. People couldn't be conservative and talk about it. It was like, oh, my God, you're walking on eggshells. Sage Steele, yourself, Chris Bruce. There's a lot of names that we know that were freaking talented that you couldn't be there because of that. But ESPN wasn't like that when it first got started. And then you saw Disney. Disney
So
just
it
launched
lost
a
its
movie
culture.
that they spent $250 million on this show. I don't even know what it's called, Kelly, the show, the new Star Wars. And the executive producer, I think, called it the gayest movie of all time or the gayest series of all time. She said it proudly, not in a condescending way, in a proud way. They had to shut down the series. Disney just lost $250 million on this, by the way. So imagine if I'm at Disney and I start questioning Disney's culture today. You don't know, you don't have the right to question the culture of Disney today. And I'll say, well, that's not what Walt Disney started, guys. This isn't what Walt Disney created. This is not what Roy Disney did, right? So stay with me here, and then I want you to tear apart my argument.
I follow you.
I like what he said that kind of triggered some people. There's a reason why that tweet got 150 million views, and it's caused him to only tweet 2 or 3 times since then. So I don't know if that's intentional himself.
I know.
Or the president
By
said,
the way,
hey,
just as an aside, I wonder about that. Just as an aside, I wonder about that. I mean, I hope he's not scared out of the debate. I've talked to him once or twice since then, but I don't know why he hasn't been back since that whole thing.
I don't think if there's anybody that is not scared of a debate, it's him. Anybody. Trump did ask people to kind of lay low with not being too active with anybody until everybody is confirmed, and that was a shot being called from the top. So I don't want to speculate and give any kind of feedback on where Vivek is. He's a tough man. He's a strong man. He's a strong man, and I'm not going there. Let's go to the next part on specific H1B visa, and then let's wrap this up.
No. Go on. I want to respond to what you had to say about culture on H1Bs because I don't think we have a debate on H1Bs.
I want you to respond. But let me give my culture side and then respond. 45 seconds. Let me give it to you and then respond. Myself, I'm from Iran. My dad's a Syrian. My mom's Armenian. I'm a Christian man. I've always been a Christian man for my family. I was an atheist for 25 years just because I saw so much shit in Iran that I didn't believe in God. Not because I wasn't Christian. I questioned all. I'm the guy that said, if God is so much this. Okay. So I come to the States. I fall in love with America. One of the Fox News hosts one time said, you may have been born in Iran, but you are made in America. And she's right, okay? So then I start giving some comments about working hard. We used to work hard, all this other stuff, and who were making heroes. Then all of a sudden, when I said our founding fathers, then I saw some people saying, your founding fathers, those are not your founding fathers. Your founding father was Reza Shah Pahlavi. I don't take that personal. But what it does to me is it causes me to be a little bit concerned about the fact that the far left that's woke is no worse than the far right that's also getting too much on this side. And I've had some of these guys on. I think that's the part that we flirted with a little bit, that we have to stay a little bit more focused. Let's break the current H1B visa program. Let's clean it up. But I want to hear your thoughts about what I just said here. Go for it.
Okay, and I'm sensitive to your time, so if you have to go, because we booked 30 minutes together, but I'm enjoying this and I love this conversation. So we can schedule on air. I know you're a busy man. I actually really like what you brought up about ESPN and Disney. What we could use with that analogy is this. ESPN had an identifiable culture for most of its existence, and that culture really centered around one thing, celebrating sports. Over time, that eroded, and it eroded to the point because I think of talent empowerment and to some extent executive decision-making, where you look up one day and you're like, everything I'm watching is about, really honestly, left-sided sports and culture. That's where I became, and Sage and others became a necessity, because you had to at least have balance if you're going to go down this path. Someone should have been there along the way, pointing out the mistakes in losing its culture. Now I'm going to apply that over to America. America, from its founding, has an identifiable culture. You and I could do an hour together defining American culture. We'd debate, we'd agree, we'd define, we would do historical research, but it would all come around to stuff like this. It was founded as the apex of Western civilization. It was founded by those seeking a better life, breeding in those who wanted to push west. And as I mentioned earlier, risk tolerance manifest into entrepreneurship. It's wildcatters digging holes in the ground. It's people wanting to push into Kansas and risking getting scalp. It's now modern day guys like yourself building businesses. It is all integral to the American spirit. I do not believe that has been lost. I believe that is deep within our soul. I actually think Texas is the most bullseye portion of that American culture left. I really do believe that. It's the most entrepreneurial place in America. Now, over time, we have allowed things like entitlement. Most of this driven by the left, but not all of it driven by the left. Things to erode us into being essentially the spoiled children of success. Let's get real, man. Your granddad was a risk taker. You are the beneficiary of his risks. There's a lot of America that's sitting here today entitled and spoiled and the beneficiaries of that culture.
Sure.
And we need to be pointing out that along the way, okay? But Vivek and you are Americans. This isn't about skin, and it isn't about anything else. But it is about when immigration is embraced, it needs to come with the buy-in of the existing culture. That doesn't ask you or Vivek to leave what you came from behind. In other words, your family lineage, the traditions passed down, who you are, your cuisine, your family, who you are. But it does ask you to buy in to that culture that got us all to where we are today.
For sure.
It doesn't surprise me you don't disagree. That's called assimilation. I think Vivek went too far. Not just, hey, we need to focus on harder academics so that we can create coders, but too far indicting American culture that I fiercely defend.
I love that he did it. I love that he did. And I hope he continues to do it. I know he'll stop, but I hope he continues to do it. And again, remember, let's isolate. I'm not talking H1B visas. Let's isolate that. That's
a different issue almost, right?
Yeah, different issue. I'm talking specifically about the hero-making challenge that we have in America right now, who the hero is and who not the hero is. That is a problem. What you just described right there, nobody disagrees with. Nobody disagrees with that. You have to buy into what America is, not the other way around. When we hire people that comes here, Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and he had a thing when people came in and they wanted to give feedback on how to change the culture of the company. He says, you're not here to change our culture. All culture works. You're here to adapt to our culture and then find ways to help improve the company. We don't have a culture issue.
Okay, hold on. Time out. Just to be clear, this is a risk in the world. Like the UK is not a company run by Ray Dalio. Like, look at the UK, and as a multicultural society suffering from a lack of integration and assimilation. And the risk, and what I, again, think Vivek went too far in suggesting is we bring in, if the vehicle wasn't really even H1Bs at this time in the debate, we bring in these people because they're high achievers and they're smart, and by the way, celebrate these parts of their culture while denigrating the one they're coming to.
By the way, there's two different things with UK and US. Let's again, because that correlation is very different. The number one name in 2024 for a child was Mohammed in UK or London. What are we talking?
Patrick, that's my point. This is the Alamo. This is the last stand of Western civilization. Not the UK. It fell. No, we are the Alamo.
This is not. This is a very different issue. So now, when you put that, you have to understand that who is coming through the southern border, the illegal immigrants that are coming here, whatever the number is, 12 to 20 million, that is not the same as the 3 CEOs that came from India that are now the CEOs of Adobe, Google, and Microsoft, and they're Indian. They by the way, it's not like they took a job from somebody else. Nobody said, well, let's pay these guys the CEOs because they're going to be cheaper than others. They're paying those guys 40, 50 million a year with the stock options, all this other stuff. Those guys are going to become billionaires. They took the job from someone else because they were more competitive for that job. That doesn't mean that applies to everybody. All I'm saying with this part is you can't put everyone the same. The UK crisis is very different than the crisis that we have here. My message, when you and I had a meeting together, I don't know if you remember this or not, but if anybody I talk to, and if I see a man like you, okay, values, principles, raised the right way. When I watch you on the show, I think it's the morning, whatever show that you guys do, where you guys are sitting there on the panel, and Pete used to be a part of it. I'm like, man, you got to have more kids. I want to see you have 2 more kids, right? It's a lot of work. I think in America, yes, I think the right people, ought to be having more kids because that's the problem with America. With America is the wrong people are having too many kids and the right people aren't having enough kids. The right people are like, well, we just want to have 1 or 2 so we can have more time with our family and all this other stuff. If you're a true believer, go get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go back to the days of having 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. So to protect the culture, you can say you want to protect the culture, but the fastest way to prove that you want to protect the culture is by having more than 1.7 kids on average.
That's fair.
My views, my thoughts on that.
So I should have had more kids.
So that means you got to get off the podcast and get to work. We got
Didn't
some
this
work
Didn't this get more interesting? Didn't this get more interesting when we did a little first take at the end? That was fun.
This is why I told you, you shine. This is you. You're a defender. You're a fighter.
Stick
and
in
when
for the Will
you are,
Cain
it's
Show.
the best. Yes, there you go.
4 o'clock on the Fox News Channel. And by the way, we hope you free up some time in the 4 o'clock hour because I'd love to have you on the show. I'd love to see some Patrick Bet David on FNC.
I'm a fan
I appreciate
of
you
yours.
today.
I'm a big
being on the
believer
Will
of
Cain
you,
Show.
and I'm
Thanks.
very happy for you. Appreciate you for the invite.
Thank you so much, man. We'll see you soon, I hope. Remember to check him out, PBD Podcast. It's everywhere. It's very successful on YouTube. It's very successful on podcast, wherever you get those podcasts. All right, let's take one last quick break, come back, and talk about the worst fan bases in sports. What is the worst fan base in all of sports? It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify. Hey, I asked you guys a little bit earlier in the show to jump into the comment section and let me know how you want to do some audience interaction on the upcoming Will Cain Show at 4 o'clock on Fox. Here's another question. So, I mean it. Will you jump into the comments? And let me bring the boys in New York up as well. And do you think we should do what was just suggested by PBD? Should I seek out some of these debates? Now, I'm going to tell you, to his first point, TV is different than pod. TV is different than digital. TV audiences don't like people yelling over each other, okay? Like the whole First Take thing, look, he did, but I'm going to be real about it. I love First Take, but I'm not going to take too many lessons from shows that get a quarter of the ratings I will be getting at 4 o'clock. So, like, I mean, I'm not being a jerk. I'm just calling it like it is. There's only so many applications you can look down towards. And so I love the ESPN people that used to be like, where did you go? You disappeared since ESPN kicked you out.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I went to 2 million.
Yeah, sorry.
That's where I went.
Sorry, guys.
On Fox and Friends. So, you know, to his point, like, it is a skill set that I love, I enjoy. What do you think? You think I should debate on the Will Cain Show?
I find it hard to debate you, so absolutely. Yes, I think you should.
But it's uncomfortable for some viewers because there's two reasons it's uncomfortable. Often you'll hear, I don't want to hear that other person talk. You'll hear that a lot, right? Or number two, it's the generalized tension of a debate that makes people uncomfortable watching. That's you, James?
No, you know what you got to do? You know what you got to do that's going to make some people be able to watch it without talking over that person? You just do facial expressions. So you're not like yelling and you're not like, it doesn't become hard to watch, but they can tell that you're disagreeing and they're kind of like Tuberville yesterday.
But
like,
wait.
Your facial
Let me ask you guys an
expressions
honest question.
become fun to watch.
Don't be on Team Will. Just be honest, okay? I feel like I do a decent job of it not ratcheting up into a tense, angry thing. I very rarely feel angry. Very rarely. I have, not on Fox, mostly back to the first take. There were occasions. But I very rarely feel it, and I hope I do a good job of not letting it get to that nasty place where the audience would be overly tense. You know what I'm saying? But I have a different barometer. I acknowledge that than everyone else. My tolerance is way higher, right? I'm a little bit like Cuba Gooding Jr. and Jerry Maguire. Every time you think that we're fighting, I think we're getting somewhere. So, was that tense just now with Patrick in the last 5 minutes?
A little bit, but you don't attack. You don't kind of just say things to attack someone because you're pushed into a corner in a debate. You actually have something to say, and it comes across well because, yeah, you do seem impassioned, but it's not anger or uncomfortable. That's where people get upset because people don't like watching a host just talk over someone. A lot of comments people get is that, let your guests talk because you're just talking over them or yelling over them because you're the host. So I think it's a good thing. No, not at you, just in general.
Yeah, I see those comments a lot. I generally let the guests talk and hope they don't filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if this can be done in a instructive, good, entertaining, and informative way, and because I would love to do this. Go ahead, Tinfoil.
I'm not sure how possible it'll be because political debate is a lot different than sports debate. I think, debating, who's the best quarterback of all time is a lot lighter and a little more fun.
But look back at first take, Tinfoil. It wasn't light. I mean,
it still seems more.
Let's not talking about immigration status. You know what I'm saying?
What if you and Stephen A? What if you had Stephen A on the show and you guys debated like the top 5 presidents in U.S. history, like you're debating whether Joe Flacco is a leader or not?
The top 5 senators right now.
There's more tangible numbers and to the applications of sports also, so you can like base it off of statistics, whereas a lot of politics is, narratives and, different storytelling devices and that kind of thing. It's like it's hard to debate something when the goalposts are moving all the time.
That's true. Well, my inclination is that I will do it, but it's interesting that you, 2 or 3 of you, are pretty skeptical of it. That's pretty interesting. I would love to get the comments as well. On Monday, maybe we can revisit some of your comments if you jump in and tell me what you think about whether or not that should be a part of a tool in our format. Go ahead.
I have Suzanne, watcher of the show, says, if you have longer than 3 minutes to do it, debates need time and substance. So
She's
that's
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
That's why she's
and
our
that's
boss.
hard. So
that's
take
hard.
Stephen A. Say I had Stephen A. on, right? And I give him 10 minutes. And we find some topics of... See, the thing is, like, you don't seek false kumbaya, but you also don't seek false division. You have to... For me, it's like, I actually didn't feel tense at all with PBD. I don't think we were seeking false division or false kumbaya. And therefore, there's some place to go forward. It's not this. They say, have you guys ever heard the term, I know Patrick has, the Hegelian dialect? The Hegelian dialect suggests there's only 2 potential outcomes, and they basically do this. I'm smashing my fists together. Well, what happens when I'm doing this over and over? I go nowhere. I'm just stuck. I'm stuck here doing this. And everybody's under delusion that one fist smashes the other fist down. That rarely happens because adults don't change their minds. So what you do is and I'm not doing this calculatedly. I just think it's somewhat instinctual. Okay, we disagree there. We could spend time, but let's over here we have this. But isn't this more interesting? And now that conversation's climbing forward. You know, in a way, I don't know. Which does, to her point, Suzanne, it does take time. And then you're like, well, TV is fast-paced, and I don't want to watch Stephen A. for 10 minutes. So, you know, I get it. It's a difficult needle to thread. But it's part of what we talk about when we say, I want this to be unique, the Will Cain Show.
Well, it's like when you had Pac-Man on.
All right. I don't think that's going to be an open invitation.
No.
That was Hegelian dialect.
Yes,
Every step of the way.
Exactly.
Every sentence was Hegelian dialect.
Yes.
He was
every
big.
sentence.
Pac-Man was big on the Biden is fit and young.
Yeah. And that's just wrong.
See, I've been doing this, and I don't know that dude, but like I've done this so long. I've debated at CNN. I've debated at First Take. You know, that dude is under the delusion. He's not seeking truth. He's seeking a win, and that's very different.
Yep.
And he's trying to win. He'd be like Kirby Puckett of debating. He's trying to grind out 1 million singles. You remember Kirby Puckett?
I love Kirby Puckett.
That is like 400 almost. And it was all singles.
He's my favorite player.
That is not a reference I was expecting out of Will.
You want Tony Gwynn? You want another guy like not just because he's black, because they both just hit singles and they were a little portly.
Could go Ichiro, could go Derek Jeter.
Chuck Knobloch.
Ichiro could go there. That dude is trying to hit singles the whole game long by Hegelian dialecting every single sentence in a debate. And that's just not a way you seek truth. That's a way you seek a shallow win. Okay, tinfoil or young establishment, James, one of you has a list of the worst fan base, I believe. Is it in all of college sports?
Yeah, all in college sports, according to Barstool U. And they are actually playing for the national championship this within the next week. And so that is number one is Ohio State.
Really?
The Ohio State, you mean?
Wow.
The Ohio State, sorry.
No, I don't mean that.
I don't. Huh.
So what I thought was interesting.
I don't agree with that.
What would you say, Will, is the worst fan base in college football to you? Because I'm curious where they land on this list. Just off the top of your head.
It's all, and this is what's great about college sports. Like you say Ohio State, even though Texas just lost to Ohio State. I don't have a lot of emotions about Ohio State. You know what I mean? Like, I know, mostly from my time at ESPN, they are a very passionate fan base. They're a very defensive fan base. You know, they've gone through some controversies, which makes a fan base defensive, you know? Like, they may have gone through more controversies than most schools. I'm just thinking through my head really quickly. And that can breed a defensive nature to your fan base. So I get it. I can see how it would be Ohio State, but I don't have an emotional feeling about them because that's not where I'm from. I didn't grow up caring about them. But if I'm from Michigan, of course, I'm voting Ohio State all day, every day. So for me, it would be Aggies. You know, that's what it would be. But I have a weird respect for the Aggies as well. Are they on the list?
They're on the list. It's a top 50 list, so they're number 17.
Oh,
I find Michigan
17.
I find Michigan fans insufferable. That would be my number one.
They're number 11.
That would put them number one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rich.
Let me guess.
Yeah, I find Michigan to be the worst.
See, the problem with this is it's a national poll, which by its very nature, I think is not representative of college football.
Yeah.
Okay, so what it's going to do is going to index my team, the Longhorns. Like, I bet you Texas is on there. And I will give you this entitlement, undeserved perhaps entitlement would make someone not like Texas. But I mean, does that make you a really bad fan base? And Notre Dame, Dan's team, I'm sure Notre Dame is on there. I actually don't hate Notre Dame's fan base at all. So I might have hated them in the 90s when it's like, why are they always on TV and nobody else is? but not anymore. So it's a national poll, Patrick. So while you tell me where they are, I'm going to think who I think truly deserves it. Go ahead.
So Texas is number 5. That's reasonable. Notre Dame, number 10. I think that's reasonable as well. And I'm really surprised. All of our teams are in the top 10. Florida State's only number 8. I thought after our Herb Street stuff that we'd be up there.
You
we're on
in the way you behave.
You're carrying
Patrick,
a lot of their weight.
Even in our little microcosm right here, you're on the path to making me hate Florida State.
Same.
And I have nothing for Florida State.
I never hated them.
You
Now
are
I do.
doing
I
that.
think Patrick has single-handedly
This is the
boosted them up.
defensiveness thing. Like every time we talk about injustice, even in America, it could be the DOJ. You bring up basically the backup quarterbacks aren't allowed in the college football playoff. If you even say something right now, all you're going to do is ratchet up this feeling we have about Florida State. And the nation, Danny Cannell, and he's my friend, Danny Cannell has single-handedly perhaps put Florida State at number, what'd you say it was, 7? I bet you anything, Danny Cannell is the biggest contributor to that.
We're very passionate on X. I'd say we have a very passionate fan base, and we really know how to ratchet it up. I'm surprised we're only number 8.
Oh, I think Miami should be high.
Yeah.
I would think Miami's high.
They're 9. They're delusional, which is even crazier because like they think they're still a top 3 team after 25 years of
I got another
one
one.
bowl.
Is it all football related? Because Duke's got to be up there.
Duke's 12.
It's just football related, so it's not.
No, it must be all
It
sports.
didn't say. I think it's all sports.
Yeah, it must be all sports.
Duke is 12.
Duke is 12.
UConn fans, because I'm from Connecticut,
ahead.
they are very annoying. If we're talking basketball,
Who?
UConn. If we're talking basketball, super annoying fan base. University of Connecticut.
36.
LSU's got to be pretty high, just because of their passion. What is LSU?
Number 4. And Auburn and Alabama are 2 and 3. So that rounds at the top 5.
If I hear Roll Tide one more time, oh my God.
Roll Tide, roll.
And most of them weren't really
you're
Alabama
right.
fans until 10 years ago. So
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's good. So then that led to this discussion here, which is I think you can actually arrive at a more accurate poll on this, and that's NFL, because it's a national sport. It's not a regional sport like college football. Who are them? And I think, are we unanimous, or is Dan an outlier here? Raise your hand on this show if you think the worst fan base in the NFL are Go Birds, Fly Eagles Fly, is Philadelphia. Oh, it's unanimous. Dan put his hand up.
I did.
Number 1, Philadelphia Eagles fans.
Yes. I've been to an
Now,
Eagles
I've
game.
always
It's
said
horrible.
this.
Got a good story there.
I've always said this as a Cowboys fan. I actually respect them. I will say maybe it's the type of respect that I could only have from afar, like, because I haven't been to an Eagles game, but I love their passion. I do. I love it. I actually
hated
love the
being there.
Aggies' passion. That's why I don't totally hate them. I respect it. I respect it about the Eagles, but it's objective that they're gross.
Yeah. I saw a fight happen between Eagles fans outside in a tailgate, outside of a urinal, for no reason. Just because some guy was standing too close.
Didn't know when they videoed that dude eating horse manure after a game? Dude got down. Remember that video?
Yeah.
From the cop horse? He sat down. I don't know why he did it, but he did it.
When I was 10,
That's out there.
I've been to Philadelphia once. 10 years old, Citizens Bank Ballpark for a Phillies game. It was actually the day Steven Strasburg blew out his arm. But we get there early. We go see batting practice, catch a ball. Some 40-year-old dude shoves me, rips it out of my hand, walks away.
Classic Philly.
40-year-old man. 40-year-old man.
Philly.
And that is a representative of their entire
But they know it too.
fan base.
They don't care. They know it, and they don't care at all.
If
They
that
like
guy,
it.
If that guy hears this, cheers.
I know that makes me like him too. That is an endearing thing.
God.
That's an endearing thing. Any Eagles fans watching it are probably like, yeah, we're the worst. And
Yeah.
that's endearing.
And if you see me on the street, I never said
All
any
right.
of this.
We need their electoral votes, too.
Here we go. We're going to take number 2 vote, and we're all going to say it out loud at the same time because I think it's unanimous as well. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Dallas.
Boston.
Oh. Oh yeah, Boston.
Who
Dude.
said Dallas?
He did.
Yeah.
Boston's
just
got to be the
joking.
worst.
Hey, man,
Ugh.
the Sox just won 4 straight.
Oh, my God. You're from
That's because he's
Westchester,
a
New
Boston
York.
fan.
You ever hear of
Except
Tom?
when he's
Sometimes.
You ever hear of Tom Brady?
That makes me... I just
I
can't
don't
stand-
think your Boston's very good.
No, it's not.
If you say something like Bryce Harper, it's a little better.
You sound like you have a speech impediment.
No, it's got to be Boston.
Giving a
It's gotta be
farewell
Boston.
address.
It is. I mean, all the sports, the Celtics fans. I'm in a group chat with my Boston fans, and they just talk so much trash for no reason, even when the Yankees were in the World Series. It's just insufferable.
Well, all right, just for giggles, let's see if we can come up with – I want to take a minute to think, but then I want to come up with number 3.
San Diego.
I think I got mine.
Any variation of like the Chargers or the Raiders?
I have one that I'm curious
about. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I would understand if one of you guys legitimately said Dallas. I would understand that, but I'm ready for my vote.
It's too easy.
All right. Let's go. James, what's your vote for number 3?
New York Knicks fans.
Wow.
I lived in New York for 15
Mets.
years. I think of New York fans, honestly, and this is an insult to New York, but a little bit like Dallas fans. I know you're into it, but you're not the most intimidating.
Yeah.
You are passionate. You're not easily identifiable. The Yankees fans, the easiest of those guys, but there's a lot of different kinds of Yankees fans, so maybe not. But
old Yankee Stadium bleacher creatures were something else in a good way.
Yeah. Dan, who's number 3?
Only because it's kind of a recency bias, but in the NFL, Chiefs fans have become very annoying to me. Kansas City Chiefs fans.
Oh, that's a pretty good vote.
You know what I'm saying?
They have.
I can't stand it. The Taylor Swift thing, Travis. I don't know. I'm just tired of hearing
they're
about
getting
it.
there. If they make the Super Bowl this year, it's going to be a little like.
Yeah, they might jump up to number 2 for me.
If it's like a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl.
That could happen. A little more winning, and they become totally and utterly insufferable.
Yep.
Tinfoil.
I do wonder, like, I think I'm with Dan on this one, but is Buffalo a good fan base or a bad fan base?
I think it's fun.
Like, I think it's fun, right? I think they're like the best one.
I think it's
probably.
really fun.
As a fan of a team that's a
they're
rival.
the Chris Farley of fan bases.
That's I love the
perfect.
tables thing,
right?
Everything about them.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'd probably have to go with the Chiefs.
And they're
so
good.
I think my nomination. You guys think about football only through the lens of football. I think I'm going to nominate Los Angeles, and the reason why is it's a different kind of annoyance. Like Lakers is a see and be seen, celebrities everywhere, enough already. Could you name the 6th man? And then Dodgers is actually sketchy, can be rough to go to a Dodgers game.
Uh-huh.
I don't know because I can't. I haven't been to a Rams game, so I have no idea what we're talking about.
I think Rams is very
here
corporate.
with SoFi. I want to. SoFi looks amazing, but I don't think I don't think of a passionate Rams fan base in the same way. I don't know. So I kind of find the LA thing a little annoying. But I mean, it's a distant third. I thought about Atlanta.
What about Chicago?
I don't know.
They're tough.
Well, we all know. It's funny you bring up Chicago, and Patrick just texted me like this stuff going on with Big Cat right now in Chicago over at Barstool. They're just not very good at very much right now, so it's hard to think about them.
And the Cubs being so endearing probably helps them out a lot.
They need a quarterback.
Right. All right, before we go today, we never really fully leaned in and embraced this, but, of course, we have the Will Cain Show Fantasy Football League this year, and there's a reason nobody wanted to talk about it, because we have a champion.
We got to wrap. Time-wise, they're
we got to go?
They're calling us out.
We're out of time?
We got to leave.
Yeah, sorry.
Early in the season, I think I began the season 0-3, and the text chain really enjoyed that. Fantasy football expert, I can't remember all the texts.
This guy was on a fantasy football podcast.
And yet, just like with my takes, give it a little time,
give it up, boys. Come on.
and everything works out.
Will, I do.
That's right. Will Cain of the Will Cain Show in the Will Cain Friends of the Will Cain League beat former federal prosecutor Andy McCarthy.
Worst possible scenario is you winning.
There was a moment. This was the moment I knew Will Cain was going to win that league. We're sitting at the MSG rally, 100 feet away from a president-elect giving a speech. He looks over, and I got there's a lot of people in that crowd he could have been looking at. I'm pretty confident he was looking at you and Rachel and did kind of a face, like a wink of some sorts. And I look over at Will, and he's it's a Sunday. He's checking the ESPN Fantasy Football app.
He's diehard.
Just dedicated.
I'll tell you when I won, James, and then Dan knows this because I texted you guys.
So annoyed.
Why are you all morons? One of you guys cut Puka Nakua. I picked him up, and I'm like, Game over. Season over. Because he was like my 4th star at that point.
And that was
he was hurt.
But that was your idea. The four player bench was all your idea. And you won because of it.
I love it.
We'll run it back next year.
I need to get a banner.
Congratulations.
I need to get a banner here in the studios.
Whatever.
Champion, Will Cain. All right, that's going to do it for us today. You'll have a Cain on Sports edition of the Will Cain Show tomorrow. And then Monday, we'll have an episode at a special time, I believe, 1 o'clock Eastern time for the inauguration of Donald Trump. Tuesday, this here is the show before the launch of the 4 p.m. show on the Fox News Channel. I'll see you again next time.